I want to show you a few improv games from last year's 200 word RPG challenge. I was talking to a friend about using improv mechanics in a game, and he asked me what I meant by that, and these are the kind of games that I mean. Another friend of mine is a teacher. She uses improv games, theatre sports as part of her teaching. She has a drama group at her school, and these are good games that you could use or adapt to use as educational tools in some ways. But let's start with something fun. Let's just launch right in. We've got Finding a Thief, a great little game by Flynn Ezra Beckman, in which one person is a dwarf trying to convince get a halfling to come on their mission, and they're offering food to everyone else who are halflings, and you're trying to pick what their favourite food is. And the way it does that is really, really quite cute. It's very simple. It's a good, simple little game, and excellent for kids. Finding a Thief. Moving on, Don't Fight Suzanne by Suzanne Chenoweth. I'm not sure. Sorry if I mispronounce any of these names. An autobiog RPG. In this, one person plays Suzanne, who's challenging the masters of martial arts to a fight because she thinks she's good enough. They know she's not and don't want to fight her because they don't want to crush her spirit by beating her up. So they're trying to find ways to get out of a fight with her while she's keen to get into one. It's a funny idea. It could be very, very entertaining. Paperwork is our next one by Pinux. I'm sorry if I mispronounce again. And this is about someone trying to get through some of the worst bureaucracy. It's like a Monty Python sketch, basically. Every time you step up, they're like, no, you've done something wrong. You need to go back and refill out this thing. You can't use blue ink. You need to use red ink or whatever. Anything just to keep you coming back with more and more ridiculous things. Could be very, very funny. To watch someone's frustration. Next up is Amnesia Assassin by Emily Bradford. Did I mention who did Paperwork? Yes, I did. Amnesia Assassin is a game that reminds me of the game Spyfall, the board game. But it's done with miming, and there's an action they're not allowed to do, and they still don't know what everyone else is doing. They do, and you're trying to pick who's in charge so you can assassinate them without doing the taboo action, which you don't know what it is. It's a cute idea. Good little party game. Interrogator and Suspect by Andreas Lagerqvist. I hope I said that right. In this also uses a similar thing, but instead of a forbidden action, a taboo action, there are taboo words. And you're trying to... there's one player who's a suspect, and they're in an interrogation. Everyone else is interrogating them, trying not to say the taboo word. And if you succeed long enough, someone else becomes the suspect, you change positions, and more words get added to the list of taboos until someone eventually ends up cracking under the pressure of the interrogation. Juxtaposers by A Cloaked Figure 01 is a game where you all play pretentious, snooty art wakers. You take a ridiculous photo and talk about how artistic it is, the composition, what it means. It defined a generation is one example there. But if you laugh, if you smile, if you break, then you are a Philistine and will be shunned. How dare you? This is art. That's Juxtaposers. There was another game very similar to it called Arte Sophisticateurs Societe or something like that, which was similar, and you actually play at an art gallery or museum. Might be a bit much for some people. But if you like Juxtaposers, I recommend checking it out. Alien Shotgun by Matthew Sforcina sees you all pretending you're in a car with one person driving. They've just picked up a heap of hitchhikers. Unfortunately, one of them is an alien who is mind controlling the rest of the hitchhikers, and the driver has to pick which one it is. But they can't look too much because they've got to keep their eyes on the road. It's a cute idea, and I don't know if it entirely works, but it seems a little hard, actually. It's special, yeah. Give it a shot. Maybe you can make it work. One that just works on its own is among my top 10 games of last year's contest. I did read them all. I didn't review them all, but I definitely did read them all. Object Delusion Support Group by Sam Ballard and Edward superior is great. You take an item, a common everyday mundane item, and like scissors, for instance, and then totally naively pretend you know nothing about it, that you've never seen it before because you're from another dimension or aliens or something, and you just pretend you were entirely uneducated about the thing. And it's like, what is this? It's these are called scissors. Have you seen these? No. What does it do? It cuts things. It's like, well, a knife can cut things. What do you need these for? No, it's like two knives. Well, I can just get two knives. You can just talk. That's stupid or whatever. Or that's genius. This is the one thing I really like about this game is that once you play it, the people you've played it with will end up just randomly out of the blue playing it with you. You're having dinner with them, and they pick up a fork and go, "Have you seen one of these?" No. What's that? Is that like a back scratcher or something? No, you use it to eat with. Like, what, does it chew your food? No, it picks it up and puts it in your mouth. I can do that with my hands. What do you need that for? Just a really, really funny game. Object Illusion Support Group. In my top 10 of last year. Imposter. Great game. Imposter by Grady Zilka? Zilk? I'm not sure. I'm sorry. But Imposter is a game that takes the imposter syndrome idea, so it does have an educational aspect to it, and ramps it up in a hilarious way. You are someone sitting in your dissertation, you're wanting to become a doctor in your field, and you've got a panel of people before you who say, right, okay, your dissertation is this, we've got some questions for you. Unfortunately, you've completely gone blank. You know nothing about, you've just forgotten everything. It's all just escaped your head. And they ask you weird and wonderful and wacky questions, sometimes contradictory, about your dissertation, and you've just got to bluff your way through. It's a funny idea. It would be hilarious to watch. Murder She Did by Brian Ashford is a game in which you all play suspects in a murder case. You're all related in some way. You work that out. You want someone to be framed for murder. You want someone to be killed. And eventually one person will die and play the little old lady who's there to solve the case. The twist is that the little old lady actually did it. She goes around committing murders and then solves the crimes that she commits, and is famous for it. For solving them. She always gotten away with the murder. And it's just funny. It's a really funny game. You don't mind who gets done for the murder as long as it's not you. Preferably the person you really hate. You want that person done for it. And everyone's got an alibi. Everyone's got motive. Wonderful work. Murder She Did is awesome. Last Rites is our first game here with a content warning. Some games last year had a content warning. So from here on in, games have content warnings. This is a content warning for blood. Last Rites is by Yaron. It's a pretty simple setup. One person is a villain who's been taken down and captured by the heroes. The heroes are saying, okay, give us a reason not to kill you for your crimes. And the villain then has a short amount of time to justify their crimes. And if they manage to do that, the heroes won't execute them. Maybe they'll take them to justice, maybe they'll let them go. It's up to you from here. That's Last Rites. Open Mic at a Funeral by Cleo Yunsu Davis. Content warnings for death, disrespect for the dead. In this, you're at the funeral of someone you barely know, and you've got 5 minutes to talk a eulogy about them, to talk about your experience with them, and you get points for telling inappropriate stories, fake crying, sneaking in an admission about how you didn't really know them too much, and hopefully entertaining the audience who are watching you do this. In the right hands, it could be very good, and could be very, very funny. That's Open Mic at a Funeral. Next up is the only one of these games that managed to become a finalist in last year's competition, and I like it a lot. 5-star game, The Truth About Jevelik. It's a game for 2 by Jonathan G. Cook. And in this, one person is a religious door knocker, a servant of Jevelik, and the other person is a person who's heard about this Jevelik religion, how weird and concerning it is, but thinks that the person knocking on their door might be saved. So they get to ask questions about problems with this Jevelik religion, and the servant has 5 different answers that they must use to begin their responses. It's really, really good. I think it's great. This is actually written by an ex-Jehovah's Witness. And I think they've done a really good job of educating people on some aspects of being a follower of a fringe religion. And I just think it's really good. And it does it does its job with compassion and respect. It's great. The Truth About Jevelik, a game for 2, is one of my favourite games of last year. I'm glad it became a finalist. A game that didn't become a finalist is also incredibly educational, and could also be hilarious to watch. It could be hilarious to watch, but when you think about it, it has a deep meaning to it, and that's Auntie Comes to Tea by Lauren McManaman. It has content warnings for consent, pushing boundaries, and analogies to partner/date rape. Sorry about that. So it doesn't have any of these overtly, but I hope you see where it comes in. Auntie Comes to Tea is about a person who has a relative that they really, really, really don't want to go to tea with, but the relative really, really wants you to come to tea with them. And it would be rude to say no. You don't want to say no. That would offend them, and you're going to hear about it. But if you say yes, you've committed to it, and you don't want to do that. And this is a game about being in that awkward position where you're trying not to offend the person, trying not to say yes and trying not to say no, and the other person's really trying to get a definite answer out of you. You can see where the consent line comes in there, and it's very educational, and doing so in a way that isn't entirely confronting. It could be a bit much for some people, but I think it does its job really well. As an educational tool, it's fantastic, and as a theatre sport, it could be incredibly funny because the subject matter is much more approachable and light. Auntie Comes to Tea, excellent game. In a similar way, and actually even lighter, is Wholesome Bug Date, which by Kitty S, with content warnings for bugs. Bugs are an issue for you. Violence and violence on a date. In this, this is also for 2 players. You're both bugs and you're on a date, and it's nice. Maybe you've been to the movies, maybe you're having a home-cooked meal, maybe you're cooking for your date. Whatever it is, the big twist in this setup is that one of the bugs, prepared beforehand, both bugs know which one it is too, has a boffer with them, and at any stage they can pop the other bug, whereupon the other bug is dead. And it's a game about discussing and educating about power dynamics. And I think it does it in a really good way, great approachable way, and easy to understand. And it's, again, could be very, very funny watching these 2 bugs on a date when one could eat your head at any time. Finally, is a game I'm not going to explain too much. It's called Chair by Adira Slattery, with content warnings for existential horror, being physically restrained, or being ignored. Chair is probably the best meta game of last year. It is incredibly meta. It's weird. It's basically for one person and an audience, and it's odd. It's just an odd duck, and I think there's something to it. There's something I really liked about it, and something I just thought was worth checking out again. So that's Chair. You can find all of these games on the 200-word RPG challenge website. That's 200wordrpg.github.io. The competition's coming up again soon. Enjoy your gaming. Have yourselves a good time. Please let me know if you played any of them.